Um, Hi. I want to speak a little today about some Maronites' claims of descent from Arabian tribes, namely the tribe of Ghassan. But before doing this, I want to just briefly mention that in the context of Arab Islam, the Ummah, or nation, if you will, which is to say the people deserving the honor of peoplehood, being called a people. In Islam, this people or those peoples are the Ummah. So, in other words, they're Muslims. So the Ummah is therefore the nation, not exactly nation in the European sense of the term, but a nation as in a chosenness, if you will, as in a chosen people, a community of the faithful, a group of people that has been privileged with a divine revelation, a divine message, and those are the Muslims. The nearest Muslim Arab equivalent to the notion of nation in the European sense uh, comes from the Arabic word shab, uh, but this is a term that applies in the main to non Muslims. Muslims do not refer to themselves as shab, they refer to themselves as ummah. So, in Arab Islam, especially, identity is, of course, determined by membership in the Islamic Ummah. This is probably the only categorization that matters. But also importantly, identity is determined by ancestry and genealogy, membership or relationship to a tribe, bloodlines. So, genealogical identity in this sense is associated with bloodline authenticity and is reserved to Muslims, whereas Shab and Shoubiya, in that sense, that is membership in a given Shab, uh, this category is associated with non Arabs, initially non Arabs who converted to Islam, sort of like the Sassanid Iranians, the Ajam or Ajami, as the Arabs called them. But later the term also applied to non Muslims, to dhimmis, who were not blessed with the honor of peoplehood from a Muslim perspective. In the ninth century, the term Shoubiya became pejorative, referring to non Arabs in the world of Islam, and ironically referring to people who, who had territory and peoplehood and government and laws, non Sharia laws, prior to the coming of Islam. This, in some, explains um, the fervor with which some Lebanese Maronites today trip all over themselves to fabricate Arabic genealogies to their families, proving to themselves that they're Arabs and to the Arabs that they exist, that they may be Christian, but that they issue from a proud Arab stock. And so they fabricate in that process an imaginary filiation to what else? An extinct, mythologized Christian Arabian tribe, namely the Ghassan. Not only that, but those modern Maronites manufacturing Ghassanid lineages go all the way into contriving for themselves princely lines. So, in other words, not only are they descendants of the Ghassans, uh, but they are Ghassan's princes. So all of the surviving Ghassanids in Lebanon today, the Maronites, who supposedly are Ghassanids, actually issue from a princely line, so they're all princes. This, of course, is utter nonsense because none of the Christians, or for that matter, the Jews of pre Islamic Arabia, remained or survived into modernity with their historical memories intact to that point. They were either en masse converted to Islam or exterminated by both Muslims and Byzantines, or they were altogether expelled and ethnically cleansed, eventually ending up melting with Christians and Jews outside of the reach of Islam in Egypt, in Mesopotamia, uh, in um, in Byzantium, in the Levant. Indeed, many Eastern Christians, like the Maronites of Lebanon, fought Islam and Arab Islam and would remain impervious to both Arabness and Islam long into the Crusader period, a time period between, I would say, the 12th to the 14th centuries, where Levantine Christians and Jews incidentally were still the majority populations of the Eastern Mediterranean, and a time period during which the Arabic language itself was still not a dominant language. But with the defeat of the Crusaders and the dismantlement of some of the last Crusader bastions, namely in our case, since we're talking here really about northern Maronites, namely we're talking about the county of Tripoli, which was destroyed by the um, by the Mamluks, 1289. So this is the dismantlement of one of the strongest remaining Crusader principalities. With this, the Maronites would take to the mountains. They would suffer the exactions of the Mamluks' brutal reprisals on account of their prior contributions to the Crusadering campaigns. And this was when some Maronites would turn to the industry of fabricating Arabist historiographies and Arabic lineages in a vain attempt at being spared the Mamluk sword. This Arabization industry would sort of recede or lay fallow for a few centuries, only to be revived and to come to its finest hour in the early decades of the 20th century with the invention of another fairy tale, Arab nationalism. And this is getting a second lease on life today um, with the rivalry in Lebanon proper between the Persians and the Saudi Arabians, between Iran and Saudi Arabia. And so some Maronites uh, sort of um, kowtowing to Arabist tendencies sort of begin reviving these manufactured Arab identities and these descents from ancient and noble Arab lines. Now, quickly on the subject of the Ghassanids themselves, the tribe of Ghassan. They were a tribe of Christianized Arabians, but they were imbued in Aramaic and Hellenistic culture. They didn't write Arabic in their correspondence, they wrote mainly in Aramaic and in Greek. Um, their origins are shrouded in ambiguity, and what we know about them comes from Arabian folk tales of really unreliable origins. What historians are sure of, however, is that the Ghassans resided in the neighborhoods of the Yarmouk River, a tributary of the Jordan, sort of crossing Israel, Jordan, and modern Israel, modern Jordan, uh, and Syria, and they were placed there acting as a buffer between the Byzantine Empire's southeastern borders and marauding Arabian tribes further south and east from the Byzantine Empire. During the early Islamic period, the Ghassanids were persecuted by both Muslims and Byzantines, and often brutally so. And that's why historians tend to posit the possibility that they no longer exist. I mean, there are no descendants of these Ghassanids. Now, on the allegation that they survived into modernity, historians are very cautious. I, I would even say they're fastidious in their use of language on the topic, and they simply note that, quote, some Syrians and Maronites claim descent from the Ghassanids, and that's the extent of it. Um, Claiming descent from is not the same as descending from, and I can claim descent from Benjamin Franklin if this can serve me for anything. So um, that's what I wanted to say on this topic today. Ciao.